I am Fons Aerts, the General Manager of Dronevolt Benelux, and today I'd like to talk to you about the H20T and the H20N and explain a little bit about the differences in the two cameras, since there have been a few questions from our customers. So we'd like to explain a few and highlight a few points of difference of those two cameras. What we're going to look at is the specifications, the zoom camera, the thermal camera, night performance, and finally a small conclusion of this test. Let's start with the H20T. The H20T has an RGB zoom camera of 20 megapixels, and this zoom camera can zoom up to 28 times using optical zoom. If this is not enough, you can zoom digitally up to even 200 times. Besides the RGB zoom camera, there's also a 12 megapixel wide camera to easily overview a situation. The H20T is also equipped with a thermal camera, and this thermal camera is a 640 by 512 pixels, and that makes it possible to zoom digitally up to 8 times. There's also a rangefinder, and this measures distances up to 1200 meters. Now over to the H20N. The H20N has an RGB zoom camera with 4 megapixels. The sensor is the same size, but the pixel count is a lot lower, and this means that the pixels are a lot bigger, so they can receive more light, which results in a more light but less resolution. This camera can also zoom in 20 times optical and 128 times digitally because of the lack of pixels. Besides the RGB zoom camera, the H20N has a 2 megapixel wide camera, and this is also less pixels than the H20T. Here DJI did the same trick as with the zoom camera. It reduced the pixels for more light. The biggest difference is the two thermal cameras the H20N has. This makes it possible to zoom into a max of 32 times digitally and 8 times optically. Both cameras are 640 by 512 pixels. Rangefinder of the H20 is exactly the same as the H20T, so there will be no difference. While testing the zoom camera, we could easily see the difference because the H20T has a lot more resolution than the H20N, and this is also very noticeable if you really look at the pictures itself. If we zoom in digitally, you could see the difference even more clearly. And here you can see that the H20T has way more resolution than the H20N. So if you do want to do a daylight inspection, we will not and cannot recommend the H20N in this case. If we look at the thermal camera, we could also see the night and day difference. And this time the H20N was the one that looked way better picture-wise. But this was only visible if you really zoom in to the subject, and this is then due to the second thermal zoom camera that the H20N has. So if your main focus is thermal inspections, we could definitely recommend the H20N. Night performance of the H20N is its main selling point, and this is also where the H20N performs the best through the reduction of pixels. The image is therefore much clearer than in the H20T, and this is very visible if you look at the pictures itself. This makes the H20N the best camera for night inspection, search and rescue tasks. Final conclusion of this little presentation is that the H20T is still the best for daylight inspections, but if you mainly want to do thermal or night inspections and search and rescue operations, we would definitely recommend the H20N.